In the middle of the sea, there was a vast island. On that island lived a man named Prospero, with his daughter, Miranda. The island was filled with various creatures, and as for humans, only the two of them resided there. Their home was a cave in the hills. Miranda was about 13 years old. Since she had become aware of her surroundings, she had neither left the island nor seen anyone arriving there. The island was her entire world. The creatures living there were her companions, and she spent all her time playing with them. Prospero was a great magician and sorcerer. He possessed some ancient texts, books, and a black staff. Most of his time was spent reading those texts. He loved Miranda dearly and took great care of her needs and comforts, ensuring that she lacked nothing in her upbringing. Prospero often engaged in strange and mysterious activities. Sometimes he would talk for hours with an invisible force, and at other times he would gaze intently at the sky. Whenever he held his black staff and waved it around his head, terrifying events would unfold. Dark clouds would gather in the sky, strong winds would start blowing, fierce storms would rise in the sea, and the waves would crash against the shores, reaching towards the sky. Simply put, storms and tempests were his obedient servants. In addition to this, the animals and spirits living on the island also followed his commands. Whenever Prospero pursed his lips and made a peculiar sound, numerous spirits would instantly appear around him. They were his soldiers and assisted him in every possible way. The most powerful among them was a spirit named Ariel. No task was impossible for Ariel. He could travel miles in the blink of an eye. Prospero loved this spirit the most. One day, Prospero was lying on the green grass. Nearby, Miranda was playing with butterflies and rabbits. The cool breeze made him drowsy, and soon he fell into a deep sleep, snoring softly. Suddenly, he woke up screaming, "Revenge! Revenge!" He was drenched in sweat. His breathing was heavy like a bellows, and his eyes were filled with fury. He stood up, looking angrily toward the sea. Prospero always performed his magical rituals in secret, away from Miranda. He did not want them to have a negative effect on her heart and mind. But today, he had forgotten all caution. His bloodshot eyes were fixed on a small ship sailing far in the sea. Within moments, the seemingly calm ocean was thrown into chaos. Dark clouds gathered all around. Waves roared as they rose toward the sky, and fierce winds created whirlpools in the water. Lightning crackled, eager to strike the earth. Amidst the towering waves, the ship tossed like a paper boat. At times, it tilted to the right, then suddenly to the left. Prospero kept staring at it intently, as if focusing all his energy to sink it. In this intense struggle, the waves finally emerged victorious. They carried the ship away like a straw, sweeping it into the distance. As soon as the ship disappeared from sight, a look of satisfaction appeared on Prospero's face. He burst into loud laughter. Miranda stood at a distance, watching the scene unfold. Seeing the terrifying form of the sea, her young heart trembled with fear. She ran towards her father and clung to his legs. "Miranda! My child," Prospero said, as he picked her up in his arms and gently stroked her head with affection. Miranda, still trembling with fear, asked, "Father, what was all this? I am very scared." "Do not be afraid, Miranda," Prospero reassured her. He turned her face toward the sea and pointed with his finger. "Do you see that shining object? That is a ship." "Yes, father." Miranda nodded as she looked in the direction he was pointing. I used my magic to create a storm and bring that ship here, Prospero said softly. But why did you do that, father? Miranda asked fearfully. The ship is about to sink. The passengers are crying out for help. For God's sake, please stop the storm or they will all perish. Prospero spoke in a firm voice. Miranda, if you knew the truth, you would never ask me to stop the storm. You have no idea who the passengers on that ship are. Miranda, filled with curiosity, asked, Who are they, father? And how do you know them? My child, until today, I have kept a secret from you. This secret is connected to our past. But now, I will tell you everything. Because before they arrive here, you must know who they are and what our connection to them is. Only then will you truly understand the whole story. Prospero sat down with Miranda nearby, and as he unfolded the pages of the past, he began to speak. Far from here, across the sea, lies a beautiful and magnificent land called Milan. 10 years ago, I was the king of that land. At that time, you were just 3 years old. A few days after your birth, your mother passed away and went to heaven. Since then, I have raised you, not only as a father, but also as a mother. We had servants, wealth, elephants, horses, everything. You were my only child, and I was always deeply concerned about you. Most of my time was spent taking care of you, and in the remaining time, I indulged in reading old scriptures and books. I had a younger brother named Antonio. He was intelligent, courageous, and a skilled strategist. Because of this, I entrusted him with all the responsibilities of ruling the kingdom. However, after gaining control over the throne, greed took root in his heart. He began to fear that once you grew older, I would reclaim my power and resume ruling the kingdom myself. From that moment, his thoughts turned in the wrong direction. He started dreaming of removing me from the throne and becoming the king himself. But as long as I was there, his dream could never be fulfilled. So, he hatched a terrible conspiracy. One day, he planned a sea voyage and convinced me to join him. On the appointed day, you and I boarded the ship and set out on our journey. The ship's captain and crew were all Antonio's men. Once we reached the middle of the ocean, they forcibly placed us in a small boat and abandoned us, leaving us to perish at sea. However, one of the sailors was loyal to me. The night before, he had secretly stocked the boat with food, water, and my sacred books. Drifting on the waves, our little boat sailed into an unknown direction. At that time, my greatest concern was for you. Holding you close to my chest, I rowed the boat with all my strength. Many days passed this way. Slowly, our food and water supplies ran out. Exhausted and starving, I began to call upon God for help. Finally, He answered my prayers, and one day, our boat reached this lush green island. Since that day, we have lived here. Hearing about her past, tears welled up in Miranda's eyes, and she clung to her father's chest. Just then, Prospero heard Ariel's voice. Master, I have returned. Prospero did not want to speak to Ariel in front of his daughter. He thought that if she saw him conversing with an invisible force, she would be frightened. So before anything else, he chanted a spell and put Miranda into a deep sleep. Then, addressing Ariel, he said, "Come forth, King of Spirits. What news do you bring? How are the passengers of the ship?" "Master, I have done exactly as you commanded. At this moment, all the passengers are safe. I used all my power to summon such a fierce storm that the ship began to sink like a mere straw in the sea. Seeing such a terrifying sight, everyone was paralyzed with fear. Your valiant brother, finding his life in peril, began to cry out for help. He fell at the feet of the sailors, pleading for his life. But his son, Ferdinand, is a brave and courageous young man. He is rowing a boat toward this island by himself. After the ship sank, the remaining passengers also found different ways to reach the island. But rest assured, they are all safe. Hearing this detailed account, Prospero smiled with satisfaction and said, "King of Spirits, today you have completed a most important task. In return for this favor, I will soon set you free, so that you may reunite with your kin. Now go and bring them all here safely. Be sure that not a single passenger is harmed. Pay special attention to my brother, Antonio. I have an old score to settle with him." Receiving his master's command, Ariel disappeared. Meanwhile, Ferdinand continued rowing his boat toward the island. As per Prospero's orders, Ariel surrounded him with enchanting melodies. Under their influence, Ferdinand forgot the recent calamity and rowed swiftly toward the very shore where Miranda and Prospero were seated. After relentless efforts, Ferdinand's boat finally reached the island. As soon as he stepped onto the shore, Miranda's eyes fell upon him. Until now, she had never seen any man besides her father. Ferdinand's grace, beauty, and strong physique mesmerized her. A seed of love sprouted in her heart for him. On the other hand, upon seeing Miranda, Ferdinand too lost his senses. He had never imagined that on a deserted island he would encounter such an exquisite beauty. It felt to him as if he had arrived in a fairyland, and that the enchanting maiden before him was the queen of the fairies. The moment Ferdinand's boat reached the island, Prospero made himself invisible. He observed their expressions and emotions closely. Seeing them lost in each other, his heart filled with immense satisfaction. He had already decided that he would marry his daughter to this handsome prince. However, he wished to test him first. So he suddenly appeared and thundered, "Who are you, audacious young man? No outsider is allowed to set foot on this island. How dare you come here? You must be a spy sent by my enemies, intending to disturb the peace of this land. Reveal your identity, or I shall punish you." Ferdinand replied humbly, "I am Prince Ferdinand, son of King Antonio of Milan. Due to the storm, our ship sank into the sea. I somehow managed to reach here. I am extremely hungry. Could I have something to eat?" "You shall be given food, Prince," Prospero roared. "But in return, you must use an axe to clear the forest around my hut. If you show the slightest negligence in this task, you shall be punished." Hearing this, Ferdinand's eyes burned with rage. Challenging Prospero, he said, "I am a prince, not your slave. It seems you have lost your mind, which is why you are speaking such nonsense. If you are so proud of your power, then come and fight me. I considered you a mere boy, but your audacity keeps growing. Wait, I shall teach you a lesson right now." "Then why delay? Draw your sword and face me. Remember, as long as I have a sword in my hand, no one can harm me." Saying this, the prince grasped the hilt of his sword. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not draw it from its sheath. His hand remained stuck to the hilt, as if bound by some unseen force. Seeing his plight, Prospero laughed and said, "You were just boasting a moment ago. What happened now? Where is your bravery? You cannot even unsheath your sword. So how will you face me? If I wished, I could cut off your head right now. But I do not raise my weapon against the helpless. If you value your life, accept my servitude." Defeated, the prince nodded in submission. Then, handing him an axe, Prospero said, "Take this axe and get to work immediately. I will return by evening. By then, the entire forest on one side should be cleared." Miranda was displeased with her father's harsh treatment of Ferdinand. Holding his hand, she pleaded, "Father, he is a prince. He has probably never even fetched water for himself. How can he possibly do such hard labor? His hands will be wounded just by holding the axe. Please do not be so cruel and merciless. Forgive him." "Be quiet, Miranda. You are trying to reason with your father for the sake of a stranger. The world is full of princes like him. At most, chopping wood will give him a few blisters, but it won't break him. He must do this work. Instead of defending him, you should keep an eye on his task. If he shows even the slightest negligence, be sure to inform me." Saying this, Prospero walked away. However, after going a little distance, he became invisible again and returned to eavesdrop on their conversation. Seeing her father's harshness and the prince's helplessness, Miranda's eyes filled with tears. She turned to the prince and said, "I apologize on behalf of my father. Please believe me, he's not so cruel and heartless. But sometimes he behaves this way. I am certain he will return soon and stop you from doing this work. Do not be sad, Miranda. I have no complaints against anyone, nor do I hold any resentment. But the truth is, I have fallen in love with you. I will take you with me when I leave this place. You will be the queen of my heart and always stay by my side," the prince said lovingly. "Prince, I too have fallen in love with you in my heart. I have given myself to you in body and soul. Wherever you go, I will stay with you and serve you." Miranda confessed her feelings as well. By now, Prospero was convinced of their love. He appeared before them and said, "And my blessings will always be with both of you. May you be happy wherever you go." Miranda and Ferdinand looked at Prospero in astonishment. Just then, Antonio and his other companions arrived there with Ariel. Until now, Antonio had believed that the storm had taken his son's life. His face was pale with sorrow. But when he saw Ferdinand sitting with a beautiful young woman, his joy knew no bounds. He ran forward and embraced his son. After this reunion, Antonio's eyes fell on Prospero, but he did not recognize him. Then Prospero stepped closer and said, "Come, Antonio, embrace me as well. I have been longing to hold you in my arms. Years ago, human weaknesses separated us, but by the grace of God, we are united once again." The moment Antonio heard his voice, he recognized Prospero. As the memory of his misdeeds resurfaced, his eyes lowered in shame. He fell to his knees and began pleading for forgiveness. Prospero lifted him up, embraced him warmly, and said with affection, "Brother, such events happen in life. Greed spares no one. But a true human being is one who can forgive the mistakes of others from the heart. I forgave you the very day your men cast us into the sea. Come, let us put aside all grievances, bless this couple, and begin a new chapter of our lives." Antonio joyfully gave his blessings to the couple, and then happiness rained down upon the island. Thank you for joining us on this journey through words and wonder. Until our next tale, stay curious and keep dreaming.